Rams at Packers. Packers -6.5, over under 45.5. Rams 11-6, 10-7 against the spread. Green Bay 13-3, 11-5 against the spread. And the Packers have been good against the spread of late, covering 5 of 6. Marcus, this was the Sean McVay special. You're down to your second QB. He gets hurt. Jared Goff comes in, and I got to give him a lot of credit. We rip him when he plays bad. He had a couple of throws that looked like they were headed to outer space because of his thumb. That's pretty amazing. NFL is crazy, and that's a pretty gutsy performance, even if he didn't play perfect. Aaron Donald goes out. Just an amazing performance. I think it's good to have questions about those guys that we're talking about, but still, the Rams prove they can win games in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, earlier this week, I ranked the top 5 head coaches in the NFL. Not surprisingly, Sean McVay at number 3, but still I can't pick the Rams to cover this game. If it was at 7 or 7.5, I think I would lean that way. But at Packers -6.5, I can just envision them winning by a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers is just playing outside of his mind right now. The defense, I think, is going to be good enough to slow down Jared Goff. So I do like the Packers to cover the spread this week, especially with the week off.
I think the Aaron Donald story is tough because if you're Seattle, who was offensively challenged, they couldn't take advantage, and they haven't been able to really take advantage against anybody. But even Aaron Donald, if he plays, do you think he's going to be right? No. You know what I mean? And that's the big key for me. I think they're getting a lot of respect, but I do side with you with the Packers here. It feels a little too easy. It feels a little bit like my Bills Indy pick, which you faded the other side. So I'm a little bit hesitant. I want to naturally go contrarian. Well, I gave Goff credit last week. Some of the throws were ugly, and that thumb's not going to be fixed, I think, in a week. I still think they've got guys, Kupp as well. This is a team that's really outplayed what it probably should, given all the injuries. This feels like a moment where you need to be 100% and then some to compete with the Packers. So I agree with you there. Ravens versus Bills. Bills -1, over under 50. Marcus, if you would have told me that this spread would have been won 5 weeks ago, I would have thought you were crazy, right? I mean, that's kind of where the Baltimore has been trending. Baltimore 12-5, 11-5-1 against the spread. Bills 14-3, 11-6 against the spread. Ravens have now covered 7 in a row. Okay, early on in that, I thought it was just bad teams. It's no longer just bad teams. They're beating, well, there's some fraudulence in potentially the last win too. Yeah. But the line here tells me they have a lot of respect. Bills had covered 8 in a row before losing it against the spread against Indy. My hat tip for you for having Indy here. Indy should have won that game, by the way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're in agreement. Like, that was a botched job in so many ways. Again, coaching theme this week, brutal last week. So what do you take from that into this game?
Yeah, Indianapolis should absolutely won that game. I'm taking the Ravens here. I think once Lamar got that first playoff win, I think some of the weight's going to be lifted off his shoulders, right? He's going to play looser. Buffalo's defense, especially their run defense, looked really bad against the Colts. And I expect Baltimore in the snow to be able to run the ball. Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. Their defense has the corners to match up with Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley a little bit. I think this is going to be an ugly fist fight, but I'm taking Baltimore to win.
I'm going to ride with the Bills, and I'm going to do so a little bit reluctantly. I think it was great to see Lamar be Lamar. I don't know what that was for Buffalo. I still have confidence that they can pull this off. That confidence has been leaking a bit. Indy had a good game plan. They grinded it out. We saw that Buffalo offense struggle a bit at times. I will say this, even though I like Buffalo, this is a Josh Allen play. You've got 2 quarterbacks that you're relying so heavily on in this game. And if one of them is not playing well, you're going to lose, right? And Josh Allen had some moments there that felt very Josh Allen-y. It worked out for the most part. That play at the end zone, by the way, was just absolutely crazy. I mean, what a freak. I mean, he is. So I still think Lamar, if he can do that and they're going to let him run wild, which I don't necessarily think they're going to do, then Baltimore's going to win. That's the game plan. When Lamar does that, it's Louisville, right? I mean, it's a beautiful thing to watch. I don't think it'll be that. I think it'll be a great game. Probably the most excited I've been for a playoff game, certainly this year. And I think obviously a case can be made for all sides. I wanted to get involved in the total, but I'm a little bit with you. I could see this game being fistfight-esque. where I'm gonna back away from it. Weather, Buffalo, all of those things kind of scared me away. Do you have a vibe on the total at all?
No, I think I'm just going to take the under here, just because I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring, tough physical game.
Browns versus Chiefs, -10. The biggest number on the board, and frankly, that's a huge number for this deep in the playoffs. Over under 56, also a big number. Cleveland 12-5, 7-10 against the spread. Kansas City 14-2, 7-8-1 against the spread. Kansas City has covered one spread since November 8th, right? This was kind of a cute conversation in one of my winners and losers, but that was a long time ago. The Browns win 48-37 over the Steelers. Marcus, I saw your mentions were fun on Twitter as you were getting involved and saying, the Steelers could come back and win this. I'm going to be honest, though, as much grief as maybe you got, and the internet never disappoints. I'm with you. Like, that game was still uncomfortable for as padded as it was, and I can't escape that when I'm trying to look at this game. That Browns defense is still really bad.
Yeah, so I obviously live in Erie, Pennsylvania, not too far away from all these Steeler fans. So I picked Pittsburgh to win last week, and I had a lot of money riding on Pittsburgh, not only to win the game, but to come out of the AFC. And Adam, I was actively rooting against my bets in that game. So I just had a feeling that Cleveland wasn't going to be able to stop this comeback. And listen, if Mike Tomlin doesn't punt the ball on 4th and 2, who knows how that game goes. But in regards to this one, I think it's a great story that Cleveland won last week. It took 4 turnovers in the first 7 minutes of that game to get them off to a hot start. Playing Kansas City is a totally different story.
Yes.
And if I set the over-under at 350 passing yards for Patrick Mahomes in this one, probably the safe bet's to take the over, because that Cleveland secondary can't stop anybody. I think a push is pretty likely here, but I'm going to take Kansas City, hoping they cover the spread late.
My dad, who all of a sudden is into betting the NFL, has been like, he was at the middle point of the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game, was calling me like, just tell me what the spread is, and I'm taking the Chiefs. Which was great.
Like Steelers plus 1,100 money line. Now, how much do I put on?
Yeah, my dad is not a professional tout, by the way. He is just a guy, but at the same point, I kind of have the same thought. Now, Cleveland's getting people back in the secondary, and seriously, like, that's an amazing win considering what that team has gone through. Yeah. But I like the Chiefs, and we talk about the Chiefs' record against the spread. I am of the opinion, as I've dissected that more, that this is a team that has been largely disinterested in winning football games by a large margin. This is real time now. It's go time. And I think as much as Cleveland has gotten back, and look, man, this could be a Nick Chubb game. I mean, they've got some fun pieces. This is just a different level entirely. And Marcus, I kind of like the over too. I was going to ask you about this total. I do think the Browns will put up some points. I think the Chiefs are going to put up a lot of points. Like, Chiefs may cover 40 of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just remember last year what happened in this divisional round game, right? Kansas City had the bye, and they came out really flat, and it was 24-0 before the game even got started. And what happened? Yes. Kansas City still covered that monster spread, because this is what they do, right? They can get hot on offense. And if they have an 8-minute stretch where they get hot, there's nothing you can do about it. It reminds me of like the old Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, where, man, this can turn into a blowout in the blink of an eye. So Cleveland, it's a great story. You have a fantastic team. You're probably not going to cover this one.
No, I think the Chiefs wake up in a big way, and I think at the end of this, you asked who they want to play. I don't know if they care. I think they're that kind of mindset, and yet we'll see what comes out of the other AFC game. Fascinating game, given the fact that we're seeing these two teams for the third time. We've got the Saints. They are 3-point favorite at home versus the Bucs. Over under 52. Tampa Bay 12-5, 8-7-2 against the spread. Saints 13-4, 10-7 against the spread. The Saints won both of these games straight and against the spread. Granted, the first one was the first game of the year, right? Tom Brady, 5 interceptions in those games, has looked old, right? He's had a couple of throws that we talked about that fluttered. Some of the worst throws of his life have come in this game this year. And I look at those results, Marcus, and I'm not sure how much I can do with them. That's the struggle I'm having with this game is, Did they have their number? Look, the Saints D look great, but you mentioned it in the top of the pod. Like, is this a Mitch Trubisky thing or is this a Saints thing?
I don't trust Drew Brees right now. Like, some of the passes that he was throwing in that game, the balls were just fluttering to the sidelines, and it seemed like they took forever to get there. And I think this Tampa Bay team is pretty much, they're a different team than what we saw halfway in the season. Antonio Brown has actually changed that offense. Rob Gronkowski making plays down the middle of the field. I'm still worried about that defense because Taylor Heineke, however you say his name.
I struggled with that on Winners and Losers, by the way. I had to go to YouTube. It is Heineke. Mike Tirico, shout out, help me out to get it right. But they can't do that. Like, Drew Brees can't. Like, his best plays were extending. That's what Heineke did so well, was escape. Getting out of the pocket. He had like 50 yards rushing. And what are you going to have Taysom Hill just run around like crazy? It's not going to produce the same results.
No, I think these are two very similar teams. And because, again, the no home field advantage really with no fans, I don't know if it matters that much. Brady is going to be able to go in the Superdome and be able to have complete control of that offense with audibles and everything. I'm taking Tampa Bay plus the 3 points. These teams are, again, they're just so similar that just give me the points just in case something weird happens.
I'm going to go under here. And I think that, I asked you, is it Mitch Trubisky? Is it the defense? It's a little bit of both. I still think Tampa's defense can play well.
Give me the under as well. I like that. I think you convinced me. I just think there's going to be some nerves early in this game. These defenses are going to be jacked up. They're both really good when they can be, especially in the front four. I envision this being, again, something like a 7-3 start with the first 25 minutes of the game. So I like the under as well.